Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. Good to see you guys again. So today we're going to check out some combo lines that you can do with the Adventure Synchron list I posted the other day. But not only that, we're not only going to look at standard combo lines, you know, what if you have this and this card together, what you can do. No, that's not enough. We're really going for a deep dive with this one. So we're going to check out what you can do if you play under certain hand traps like Droll or Shifter, how you can play around some common hand traps, and last but not least, what if you draw certain one-offs, like what happens if you draw Stardust Trail, for example, and you can't special her with Illumination, or what if you draw the second Stardust Synchron during the combo, so you can't send him with the effect of Excel. Yeah, I reckon you grab a snack and something to drink and buckle up, because this is gonna be a long one. So just before we start, I'm gonna show you the deck list minus the non-engine, because that doesn't matter for the sake of this video, just so that we all are on the same page and we know what we're talking about. And if you wanna have like further explanation on the card choices, ratios and stuff like that, feel free to check out the deck profile. I'm gonna link it in the description for you guys. So for the first combo, I wanna look at Jet and Rite. So we need these two and a blank card, you know, just a discard for the Fateful effect to play around Droll, which, you know, you always should. Okay, so we start off with activating Rite, getting ourselves a token and activate the Fateful Adventure. Then we're gonna go a Fateful Adventure effect, add the Griffin and discard the blank. Then we wanna summon the Griffin and normal summon Jet. Then we're gonna go ahead and synchro those two off into Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. So if you're afraid of Ghost Spell, you could go chain 1 Excel, chain 2 Fateful to add the Draco back. But you can also save that for a point later in the combo, which where we're gonna mention it again. So let's just say for now we don't do it. So we summon out the Jet, and then we're gonna go and activate Excel's effect to summon a Stardust Dragon. And then we go ahead and synchro those two off for the Chunk Speeder. Chunk Speeder's effect gonna activate. We are summoning our 4 friends. And so here's the other point, like Stardust Synchron triggers now to grab the Illumination, and we could chain block that as well to play around Ash, but your opponent will probably Ash the search for Griffin. But yeah, in case he didn't Ash that, you could theoretically chain block the Stardust Synchron here as well. So yeah, just want to mention that quickly. So Stardust Synchron triggers and adds the Illumination. Then we go ahead and synchro the Chunk Speeder and the Revolution Synchron into a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Activate Illumination to summon the Trail. Then we're gonna go into TG. And now we can start drawing. Right when we synchro summon the Stardust Synchron and the Dragon into the Crimson Dragon. Librarian draws 1. Then we're gonna go Stardust effect, tribute the Assault Synchron, bring him out and activate Trail as well. Then we wanna go for the effect of Revolution Synchron in the graveyard. We bring him out by milling 1. He's level 1 now. And then we synchro summon the Trail and the Revolution Synchron into a Excel Synchron. We go chain 1 Librarian, chain 2 Trail to get a level 1 token, and Librarian draws 1. Then we want to activate the Excel Synchron, sending the Stardust Synchron to make him level 9. And at this point we can activate Crimson Dragon's effect, target the Excel Synchron, put him back into the extra deck and get out the Trishula. So we go TG chain 1, Trishula chain 2 to rip 1 out of hand. Then we draw 1. Now we are going for a Baron de Fleur. TG draws another one. And now we can discard a card for the Jet Synchron in the graveyard to go for a Dispater. Librarian draws the final card, and last but not least, we activate the Illumination in graveyard, banishing itself to reduce Stardust Synchron's level by 1, so he's a level 3 now. And then we go for Omega, and here we activate Omega's effect to rip 1, and Dispater brings back Omega, and we can rip again. Okay, so let's rewind to right about this point here. So let's say we drew the Stardust Synchron, either off of Librarian, because we already got 2 draws at this point, or maybe we had it in our starting hand. So what's the combo gonna look now? Because, you know, we're just playing 2 of these, we can't send another one. I'll show you. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna synchro summon those 2 off into the Stardust Charge Warrior. And then we're gonna activate Librarian and Charge Warrior and draw 2. Then what I like to do next is I use Illumination to make Stardust Synchron level 3. Synchro those 2 off for Croc. Activate Librarian and Croc and draw 2 more cards. Then we go Crimson Dragon, tag out for Trishula. We activate Librarian and Trishula in sequence, and we draw yet another card. With this line you get some more draws, and now we're gonna use Jet Synchron's effect. We discard 1. So at this point you can synchro those 2 off and either go for Baron or Dispater, one of those. So if one of these cards happen to be a Black Witch or a Wanted Poster, you can still go for Omega and rip 2 cards. If not, you know, this might just as well be a Baron, but keep in mind that if you go for Baron, you are weak to Super Poly here. So you just ripped 1 and you lose your hard negates to Super Poly, which, you know, I don't like to do. So in this case, I pretty much go for this better. The only instance where I wouldn't do that would be in, you know, the Fluander Reese matchup or something, you know, where you can be pretty sure that you're not gonna be Super Poly. But in every other case, or, you know, if it's like game 1 and you don't know what you're up against, you know, I usually go for this pattern because, you know, you drew a lot of cards. So, you know, chances are pretty good that you drew at least one of these. Let's just check it out and extend further with those 2. So you can go Diabellstar here, you know, send 1 card from hand to grave, special summon her out and activate her effect to set the original Sinful Spoils from deck. And then you can, that's why I kept it, activate the Draco back and go for original Sinful Spoils to bring out a Jet. But, you know, keep in mind you can just as well, and yeah, and I'd also like to keep this one for follow-up, just in case, like, our opponent's hand is insane and he's going to out everything we have, but that's pretty unlikely at this point. So we're gonna go into Omega, we draw another with Librarian, and then we can, you know, do the typical Omega shenanigans. We rip a card, then we go Dispater, bring back, and we banish. So we at least gonna rip for 1, have 2 monster negates and a spot removal. And if we drew into our wanted engine, we get still the triple hand rip plus 2 monster negates and a spot removal. And then on top of that, if you happen to draw into this card here as well, you can still bring back a Jet and synchro the Croc and the Jet off into a Baron if you want to. So yeah, the possibilities are limitless. In this case, because you're going to draw a lot of cards, chances are you're gonna see at least one of these. Alright, let's see what happens if we open the Stardust trail. How much do we miss out on and how does the combo change? Well, let's have a look. We start off with Rite and get ourselves the token and the Fateful Adventure. And then we want to go activate Fateful to grab the Griffin. And since we can't normal summon the trail because we need to normal summon the Jet in this case, like if you would have opened Overtake instead of Jet, this would also change quite a bit because we could save the normal summon for her, and then nothing would change at all. But let's say we didn't. So we discard her and special out the Griffin Rider. Then we normal the Jet, synchro those two off into XL. We can chain block here the XL again and bring out the Jet. Then we go XL effect, special Stardust Dragon, and go for Speeder. Speeder triggers here and gets our 4 friends. We still activate Stardust Synchron and grab the Illumination. What we're gonna do now is we are going to climb up into a Baron with these Assault Warrior and draw a card in the process. Then we can synchro the Stardust Dragon and the XL and the Assault Synchron into a Disparder. And now we can activate the Stardust Synchron Engrave, tribute the Revolution, and get both him and the trail out. Synchro those two off into Omega, then we can Omega Rip, discard the bring back, and Omega Rip again. So this board is much weaker, obviously, because we miss out on some draws and an additional hand rip. You arguably could go for some Crimson Dragon lines with XL Synchron and the trail token. But, you know, I tried out a few different lines and they are pretty much ending all on the same stuff. Sometimes you might have a Dispatter and a Crystal Wing, but just one hand rip. So, yeah, you have a lot of options there, but, you know, I think this is still the best one because you have your Omni and your Monster Negate and you still rip 2 out of hand. So, yeah, I think that's the best line, at least the best line I came up with. If you happen to find out a better one, please let me know in the comments. Alrighty, for the next combo, I want to check out a Herald Line. So we need Overtake, Water Enchantress to normal summon, and a spell or trap to discard for the Jet Synchron effect. So to play around Ash Blossom, we start off with Synchro Overtake and revealing the Jet Warrior from my extra deck to summon out a Jet from deck. The reason why I say this plays around Ash is because you haven't committed to anything yet, so I think it's pretty unlikely for your opponent to Ash Blossom into nothing. For instance, if you normal summon the Enchantress first and then activate Overtake, it's clear to your opponent what you're trying to do. You try to synchro summon right away, so he's more likely to stop the Overtake now because you already wasted your normal summon. It's pretty similar, I feel like, to when you play against Branded and they start with Fusion Deployment. You're not gonna ash that Fusion Deployment, are you? No, of course you don't. You wait for more impactful stuff like Branded Fusion, for example. So I think, you know, the same logic kind of applies here. So we get out the Jet, normal summon the Enchantress, then we're gonna synchro those two off into Herald of the Arclight. Then we wanna activate Enchantress and grab ourselves our Rite of Aramasir. And you know, the niche thing about this card here is your opponent cannot roll you while this card is on the field, because it states that every monster that would be sent from the hand to the graveyard is banished instead. And because Droll doesn't say you have to discard it, but you have to send it to the graveyard, means your opponent cannot fulfill the cost of Droll and Dogbird, so therefore he cannot activate it. So we got ourselves the Rite of Aramasir. We're gonna activate it, grabbing ourselves the token and activating the Fateful Adventure from the deck. Next we want to activate Jet in the graveyard, pitching our spell or trap to bring him out. And then we're gonna go into Chunk Speeder. And here we can chain block Chunk Speeder, which we're obviously gonna do, so this plays around Ash even more. We're gonna go chain link 1 Speeder, chain link 2 Fateful. We add the Draco back, and then we summon out our 4 companions, the last of which gets us the Illumination. So from here on, we climb into a Charge Warrior, draw a card, and then go into the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, activate its effect to bring back the Jet. Then we wanna activate the Illumination to bring out the Trail, which then allows us to go for Librarian, and we're off to the races. So we activate Excel's effect to synchro summon the Stardust Dragon, and then immediately afterwards synchro summon into Crimson Dragon. So here we have a nice interaction with Librarian. He is Chainlink 1 and Chainlink 2 because we synchro summon twice. Remember, this one here counts as a synchro summon as well. And Chainlink 3 is gonna be the Assault Synchron, resurrecting our Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon from the graveyard. Then Librarian resolves, we're gonna draw 2. Next we wanna go for Illumination, targeting the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon to reduce his level by 1, so he's a 7. 3 and 7 makes 10, which in this case will be Baron. Librarian draws. Then we're gonna Crimson Dragon tag out into this pattern. Librarian draws 1 more. And then, since we cannot rely on Revolution Synchron getting back from the graveyard by milling 1, because if we mill a monster it gets banished and then we cannot special summon him, we just gonna go for Stardust Synchron here, tributing the Librarian, bring himself out, and then we activate the Trail to bring her out. And then we're gonna go and synchro summon those into the Omega. Then we activate Omega effect, activate this pattern, bring back Omega, and Omega effect activates once more and rips 1 more out of our opponent's hand. Alright, and then before we end our turn, we gonna go and activate Fateful Adventure. And we either grab one of these 2, depending on what we drew during the combo. So if we already have another Enchantress or a Rite of Aramasir, we're gonna grab the Griffin Rider, and vice versa. So we can immediately apply some pressure on the next turn in case our opponent was able to fully or partly play through our board. So yeah, that's that. Let's quickly rewind back to this point here, right after we resolved Speeder and searched the Illumination. What if, in this scenario, we also had Trail in our starting hand? How would the combo change? What will the end board look like? Or, because we're gonna go ahead and climb up into Excel via Stardust Charge, so we draw a card here. And what if this card is Trail? So, you know, any of these variations. What if Trail is in the equation? What's gonna happen? So, at first we're gonna go into Excel, Synchro Stardust Dragon again, activate his effect to bring out the Jet. And then, what we wanna do next is we're gonna activate Illumination to summon out the second Stardust Synchron. And now we synchro those two off into Crystal Wing, because for the next play we need the room. So we activate Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon's effect, get out the Stardust Dragon, and synchro summon him and the Stardust Synchron off into a Crimson Dragon. And then we're gonna trigger chain 1 Assault Synchron to bring back, and chain 2 Trail to summon. So it looks like this. Then we wanna go into TG. Next we go Illumination, reduce to make level 7, bring out a Baron. Librarian draws, Crimson Dragon effect, takes out for Disparter, Librarian draws another one. And from here we can go Disparter, bring back Trail. We can go and activate the effect of the Stardust Synchron to tribute the Librarian. And then synchro those two off into an Omega. Omega effect to rip 1. So we still get our Crystal Wing, Dispatter and Baron, but with only one hand rip. So yeah, hard opening the Trail makes boards weaker, but we still can do quite a lot. And just a quick note here, if you happen to activate the Baron during your turn, you still have the option to tag out the Baron into the Herald that's in your graveyard now during the opponent's standby phase. So if we rewind the board even further to the point where we haven't summoned Speeder yet, there's another line we can do if we open Stardust Trail, and I think this one might even be better than the first one. We just need another discard, or if you are not afraid of Ash, you can also search the Draco back when you bring back Jet. Alright, so I show you what we're gonna do. We activate Fateful Adventure here to grab the Griffin and discard the remaining card. Then we wanna summon it. Here we go for Speeder, and so we go chain 1 Speeder, chain 2 Fateful. We add the Draco back, and then we get ourselves the Jet, the Assault Synchron, and the Stardust Synchron. Stardust Synchron will activate and gets the Illumination. Then, same as before, we go for Assault Warrior to climb into a Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, which revives the Jet. Then we want to go Illumination, special the second Stardust Synchron. Then we use Illumination right away to reduce one of the 2 Stardust Synchrons to level 3. So we get ourselves a Baron. Next we want to activate the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, tribute itself, go for Stardust Dragon, and then we use the Stardust Dragon and the other Stardust Synchron for Crimson Dragon. And then we go Assault, chain 1, Trail, chain 2, get out the trail and bring back the XL Synchro Stardust Dragon. From here, we go into the Croc, draw a card, then we go Crimson Dragon, take out for Trish, rip 1, and then we go Stardust Synchron, tribute, bring himself out, and then we go into an Omega, activate Omega's effect to rip a second card. So what we're looking at is we have 2 Omni Negates now instead of just 1. Sure, we missed this pattern and we don't have a Crystal Wing, but we have the Croc, which still is a removal. And if we happen to play against a deck where Herald is deadly, they can't even out it by battle, because if they normal something to threaten the Herald, we just let them go to battle phase, and on attack declaration we can discard 2 and destroy the monster, so that Herald stays on the field. Yeah, what do you guys think? I think that's not too shabby. And you know, same as last time, if you happen to come across a line that might be even better, just let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's jump right into the next combo. Here we're going to look at the Chunk Servant line. This works with Diabellstar and a special summon, or let's rather say a card that stays on the field. It could also work with a Draco back that you happen to hard open, or like a Fateful Adventure that got ashed or something earlier during the turn and now just sits there and does nothing. It also works with Fenrir and this card here. So basically any way to a level 7 and a special summon of Jet will make this line possible. So yeah, for this example we're gonna look at Fenrir and Diabellstar, because I think that is the better one, and for the sake of playing around Droll and Lockbird, because we really need that Jet search to resolve, we have a blank here to discard. So we start by special summoning Fenrir, and then we special summon Diabellstar by discarding the card in hand. Diabellstar effect activates, gets us the original Sinful Spoils from the deck. So we go on and activate the original Sinful Spoils to bring out a Jet Synchron. And there we're gonna synchro off into the XL Synchro Stardust Dragon. So you have 2 different ways to play that out. You could either go Chainlink 1 XL Synchro, Chainlink 2 Jet, especially if you're afraid of like a ghost spell or something. You know, maybe your opponent already ashed like a Enchantress Search or something during the turn. So you can then carelessly use a Jet Synchron Search effect as Chainlink 2, just to be safe from a potential ghost spell. Or if you really need that Jet Search to resolve, you can also go Chainlink 1 Jet and Chainlink 2 XL. You know, that's up to you. That you kind of have to read your opponent a bit on that. But you know, if your opponent already used an Ash, it's a no-brainer. And let's say for this example, he already used an Ash Blossom, and we go Chain 1 XL, Chain 2 Jet. Jet grabs us the Chunk Servant, and XL brings the Jet Synchron out. And here we can normal summon the Chunk Servant, and then we go XL effect, bring out a Stardust Dragon, and immediately synchro those 2 off for Speeder. Speeder activates and summons out our 4 companions, the last of which activates and grabs us the Illumination. So from here on it's pretty similar to like the standard Jet and Rite combo. We go for Crystal Wing, activate Illumination to a special trail, then we can synchro off into Librarian, and then we're gonna make the Crimson Dragon. Librarian effect draws a card. We activate Stardust, tributing the Assault Synchron, also triggering the trail. Then we go for Revolution Synchron. We mill one and we bring him out. Then we wanna go for the Excel line. Chain 1 Librarian, chain 2 Trail to get a token to the other side of the field. And draw one. Then we go Excel effect, dump the Stardust Synchron to increase its level by 4. So he's a level 9 again. That allows us to take Crimson Dragon out for a Trishula, which then draws us another card. And here I'm gonna synchro off into Despater and draw the final card with Librarian, because we cannot use Jet's effect in Grave to special summon him out, because we already used the search effect, and you know you can only use one of those 2 per turn. So I just like to go for Despater here because it, you know, it guarantees us getting the additional two cards out of the opponent's hand. So we are basically ending on the same board minus the Baron. But keep in mind, if you haven't used this card and it happens to be one of those 4, then you can just make the usual board and nothing changed. This is one reason more why this card is so great. So, but let's say for the sake of the combo that these draws are irrelevant. We go for Illumination, reduce the Stardust, and then we go for Omega rip 1, and Despater bring back. And here, because that board doesn't play into super poorly at all, you can think about leaving the Omega on field, just so that you can like put back a trail during the opponent's standby phase, or if your opponent used Ash on something like a Water Enchantress thing, you can put that back as well, so that you have some more follow-up for the next turn. Or you just go for the additional hand rip right away. So let's have a look at another interesting variation of this combo. This card combination might not be as common as the other ones, but if you play this deck a lot, you will sooner or later encounter these hands where you have Diabellstar access and a bunch of Synchrons, and the only Synchron that really works with it is a Stardust Synchron. Let's check out what we can do with that. So we start off by normal summoning Stardust Synchron, activating his effect to grab the Illumination. Then we want to send a blank from our hand to special the Black Witch. Black Witch effect triggers, sets us the original Sinful Spoils from deck. From there, we want to activate the Sinful Spoils, sending the Stardust to bring out a Jet, which then allows us to Synchro summon into Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, triggering his effect, bringing the Jet back. And here we can activate the Illumination to summon the Trail out. And look at that. That's a pretty familiar setup, isn't it? We have Excel Synchro, Stardust Dragon, Jet Synchron, and a level 4 non-tuner. So you know what we're gonna do here. We activate Excel's effect to bring out the Stardust and the Chunk Speeder. Chunk Speeder brings out the Fabulous 4. And from there, this combo will be way more simplistic than the other combos. So we're just gonna go into the Assault Warrior here to draw 1. And then we climb our way up to a Baron de Fleur. Then we can synchro off these 2 into Despater. And from there we activate Stardust Synchron's effect in the graveyard, triggering the Trail. And then we can go for Omega, and well, you know what we're gonna do from there. We activate his effect, ripping 1, bringing him back with Despater, and rip another 1. I tried some different lines there as well, like you could go for Trishula stuff with Crimson Dragon, but you know, at the end of the day you're still only ripping 2 and have a Despater or a Baron or Despater and Crystal Wing or something like that. on your board then. So yeah, why just not keep it simple in this case and like go for this setup. If you happen to have a line that you think, you know, is way more interesting or produces a better board, then yeah, let me know in the comments. And just to put it out there as well, what if your blank card happens to be Stardust Trail? Let's find out. We start out with Stardust Synchron adding the illumination. Then we go Diabellstar pitching the trail. Diabellstar activates and gets ourselves the original Sinful Spoiled Snake Eye. Gonna activate it right away, sending the Stardust Synchron to the graveyard, bringing out the Jet. Then we Synchro Summon for Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, bring back the Jet, and here we can go Stardust Synchron effect to Tribute, which triggers the trail. And then we can discard the illumination for Jet. And yeah, activate Excel's effect, bring out the Stardust Dragon and the Chunk Speeder. Chunk Speeder then resolves and brings out a 1, a 2 and a 3. So from here on, I'd like to go for Omega, activating its effect right away to rip 1, and then just synchro those two off for Dispatter. Dispatter, bring back the Omega and rip another 1. So yeah, this line's pretty weak, because it just happens to be Diabellstar plus a normal summon in addition to the soft Garnet of Trail. So you're not gonna accomplish too much in this case. So yeah, you could still, instead of ripping the second time with Omega, you go for a Croc with Jet and Omega to draw a card and play it a bit greedier. You know, might work out. Like if you draw the Synchro Overtake, for example, in that case, you could make a Baron on top. And then, you know, instead of having the second hand rip, you get your hands on another Omni Negate. And the neat thing is you can then recycle, for example, the XL and the Omega with its graveyard effect to have a bit more follow-up options available to you. But yeah. And again, if you come across a better line, just let me know. Alright, my fellow Synchron enjoyers, I hope you guys are still with me, because now that the standard combos are out of the way, we're gonna look at some impactful hand traps like these guys here. How can we play around them, and what can we do if we get hit by them? That will be the main focus of the next part of the video. So let's kick things off with looking at Droll. And here we're gonna look at the standard combo I showed you earlier, like Rite Jet. What happens if our opponent Drolls us? So we start off with Rite of Aramesir, go for Fateful, then we activate Fateful's effect to search, grab the Griffin and discard a card, and then our opponent goes boom, Droll, and we say alright, we special the Griffin, normal the Jet, go for XL Synchro Stardust Dragon. We can also nicely chain block our XL Synchro Stardust Dragon to protect ourselves from a ghost spell, so we go chain 1 XL, chain 2 Fateful, and equip from deck. We don't have to search this card, we can also equip it. And then XL resolves, brings back the Jet, then we go XL effect. Go Stardust and Speeder. Speeder brings out the friends. And yeah, so it's gonna stay pretty simplistic here. I like to go for Omega there. And then go Dispatter. Then, you know, we do the ripping shenanigans with Omega and Dispatter. Alright, so let's check out what Droll does to the servant line. For this line I decided to switch it up a little and go for Fenrir plus Overtake. Bear in mind this could also be Fenrir and Diabellstar. So we're gonna start off by summoning the Fenrir, then go Overtake to special the Jet. Then we synchro off into XL Synchro Stardust Dragon. As mentioned earlier, do your chain links how you like. I go chain 1 Jet, chain 2 XL this time. Special summon the Jet and go and search the Junk Servant, and then boom, our opponent drops the Droll on us. So we're gonna go ahead and normal summon the Servant, activate XL Synchro Stardust Dragon's effect to summon Stardust Dragon and Speeder. Speeder invites our friends here to a little party. And then, you know, from this point on, it's the same as before. So, you know, we go Omega, Omega effect to banish. And then we go Dispatter, bring back the Omega, rip one again. You know. Or you can go for like the Baron play, like I showed in the previous combo. Okay, I'd say let's check out some test hands into Droll scenarios, because you know, talking about Droll in regards to our standard combo is nice and all, but you know, how does a hand actually play out? How do you play into Droll or around Droll? So yeah, that's where I gonna think these test hand scenarios you know, really showcase how you can play around it, how you can play under it, and you know, how you can delay playing into Droll or forcing a Droll and Blockbird even if you already, you know, have your combo, and also have like tactics, so you can punish that even harder. And yeah, let's check it out. So for our test hand we have Jets, Imperm, Fenrir, Rite, oh yeah, that's nice, and ooh, and the tactics. Oh well, that's a pretty good one. So here we want to start with Fenrir, and then we're gonna go and activate the Rite, get a token, and activating the Fateful Adventure from deck. So here in this case, it might be best to play into Droll now, because we have talents, and even if this wouldn't be talents, playing into Droll now by searching Griffin sure prevents us from searching the Illumination later, but we already have another non-tuner, so we don't really need to do that. And the benefit of adding the Griffin now is that it also prevents us from getting stopped by an Impermanence or a Nibiru, for example. So yeah, having the tactics now is just a bonus. But you know, let's play it safe, because you know, this hand allows us to still combo under Droll, so yeah, why not grab the additional protection for other hand traps. So we activate Fateful, grab ourselves the Griffin and discard the Imperm. Then our opponent goes on res, drop Droll and Blockbird, and we say, yeah, that's fine, buddy. Anyway, we activate Griffin to special, normal summon Jet, and then we reveal the tactics in our hand, checking our opponent's grip, getting rid of a potential hand trap, or if he doesn't have any, we can also grab like a starter for his combo, or you know, for his deck. And then we can play as we like. So we're going for XL here. We can even chain block for a ghost spell, so we go chain 1 XL, chain 2 Fateful, equip the Draco back, and bring out the Jet. Then we go Excel effect, summon Stardust Dragon, and synchro the token and the jet off into a junk speeder. Then we go speeder effect, bringing out, in this case, a Stardust Synchron, a Salt Synchron, and a Revolution Synchron. And then we want to go for a Baron right away. Then go for Crimson Dragon. Take out the Crimson Dragon by targeting Baron and go for a this pattern. And then we go Revolution Synchron effect, mill 1 to bring himself out. And because he's a level 1 now, we can go for Stardust Charge Warrior. And then we synchro those off into an Omega. And then we activate our friend Omega. This pattern brings him back and we rip another card. We got rid of 4 cards out of the opponent's hand because, you know, he dropped the Droll. We ripped 1 with Tactics and then we ripped 2 more with Omega. So he is up with 2 cards against our 2 interruptions, and we even have a follow-up, like we can go Stardust during our turn, we have Jet Engrave, we have Fateful Adventure to grab us another Rite via Enchantress. So yeah, that's a pretty decent setup. So let's quickly do another one. Alright, we have Adventure Access, we have a Synchron, and we have the Wanted poster. So you can approach this in a few different ways. You can either, like in draw phase, go Wanted to play around Droll that way, or you can start off in main phase by banishing the Enchantress, and if they drop the Droll on resolution, you chain the Wanted poster and grab your Black Witch there. But I like having the Black Witch and pitching the Enchantress for it because it's, you know, it's not as resource intensive. It just, you know, happens to give you more value out of your cards. So we're gonna go draw phase Wanted, getting ourselves the Diabellstar, the Black Witch. Then we proceed to main phase, summon Diabellstar by discarding Enchantress and activating her effect, getting ourselves access to the original Sinful Spoils. And then we can even play around Droll here by normal summoning the Revolution Synchron and synchro off into a Baron. So we go for Enchantress here and grab ourselves the Rite. They obviously can Droll us here. And I think if they Droll us here, like at this point we might even let the Droll resolve and save the Baron for potentially another interruption. We go Rite, bring out the token and the Fateful. And then we're gonna mill 1 for Revolution Synchron. You know, I'd rather, because we already have like speeder setup, I'd rather play under Droll than losing our speeder to an Imperm or an Ash. I'd rather have speeder resolve and play under Droll than don't play under Droll but your speeder doesn't resolve. So yeah, resolving speeder is always better. We summon him. And get out some friends. At this point, we want to go and climb our way up into an Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. reviving the Jet Synchron, and then we go Excel Effect, bringing out Stardust and Crimson Dragon, and here we can go chain 1 Assault to bring back the Excel Synchro, and chain 2 Trail to summon her out. So what we're gonna do now, we're going for a Croc, activate Crimson Dragon to take out into a Trishula, and then we can go and activate the original Sinful Spoils, getting rid of the Fateful Adventure to summon out another Jet, which then allows us to go for a Dispatter, and finally we go Stardust Synchron, tribute the Croc and bring himself out, and that lets us Synchro summon into Omega. And then we activate Omega, use this pattern, bring back Omega, or we even could leave Omega on field to bring back the Enchantress during the standby phase. We already have access to negates, and we also happen to have a Droll in our hand, so we can still, play it safe and go for some follow-up. And then, if he activates a search card, for example, during his main phase, we can still chain Omega and rip the third card out of his hand then. And this hand was also a great example in showing what happens if you draw the trail. At first glance it seems, pretty bad opening her, but there are some instances where it actually helps you, like for example playing under Droll. This is still an additional non-tuner. You have multiple different ways of triggering her effect to bring her out, like with Stardust Synchron or with the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. It actually helps you push through, and then it actually doesn't matter if you get Drolled or not, for the most part at least. I mean, sure, your hand is empty, you don't have that much follow-up under Droll, but you still put up quite a good board. So that about sums it up for Droll and Lockbird. As you could see, the end board gets weaker if we get Drolled, but it's not like, we search something, they drop Droll, and we pass with an empty board. So there's stuff we can do under Droll. For sure, it's better to not get Droll, obviously, but that's how it is. Droll is a pretty popular hand trap right now. And another quick thing I want to mention is, if you happen to hard open one of these, in addition to Jet and Rite, you can play through Droll a lot better, because this allows you to have more non-tuner access. And as you may notice, during the standard Rite and Jet combo, we're running out of non-tuners pretty fast. So yeah, if you happen to open one of these as well, Droll gets even weaker against us. Because, with an additional level 7, you could do Omega that way, like with Black Witch, and then, sending the Fateful Adventure or something. Getting access to an additional Jet as well. You can go for Omega then right away and, save up the level 5, the Librarian, for some other synchro plays. Or you could go into a Croc, try to figure out some Crimson Dragon lines. These are those instances with this deck where you can freestyle a lot, obviously. And the more aware you are of different lines that are possible, you're gonna play through this card much better. And with that out of the way, let's talk about Nibiru. That's a pretty interesting one, actually. because I've seen people drop Nib against me during the combo at like basically any moment you can do it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through different scenarios where our opponent could Nib us. What happens a lot of times actually is, you know, we summon Excel with, like, let's say for example we do the right combo and we summon Excel, bring back the Jet. Our opponent has the Nib in his hand and counts like, oh yeah, this are 5 summons now, I'm gonna drop Nib here. Which does absolutely nothing in this case, because this guy here is a quick effect. And we're gonna chain him to Nib. Go for Stardust, Dragon and Speeder. And then what happens is Nib resolves now. But those two are unaffected, so, you know, nothing happens to us. He just wasted Nib because, you know, Speeder is gonna trigger on a new chain. And bring out all of those, grabbing us this via Stardust Synchron and getting access to another non-tuner. So yeah, our opponent just wasted his Nib in this case. Okay, off to the next scenario. And this is, by the way, I think the correct way to use Nibiru in this combo. So we activate Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon to obviously play around Ashes and Imperms, and that's like the most vulnerable moment against Nibiru, because if our opponent chains Nibiru here, you know, we tribute the Stardust and the token to get ourselves the Nib token. Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon will still resolve as much as possible and gives us the Stardust Dragon. But we cannot synchro summon further, obviously, because we don't have any tuners on field now. So what we're gonna do here, or what we can do here, is discarding a card for Jet Synchron, synchro summoning the Jet and the token into a Crimson Dragon. And then we can go Crimson Dragon effect, target the Stardust Dragon, to go for a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Nib in this case is pretty impactful actually. So we're just ending with a Monster Negate and a Destruction Negate, which, you know, it can be good, it can come up. Having the Destruction Negate when you play against something like, you know, Fire Kings or Unchained, stopping that island or stopping that the Shavara or any other Unchained destruction effect. It still does something, but, you know, they are both wins, they are both dragons, so you're gonna lose to Super Poly really hard if your opponent happens to play that as well. But I'm gonna show you what you need to don't get to this kind of scenario. For example, if you have a Fenrir in addition, you can start off your combo by special summoning Fenrir, then go for the adventure stuff. Search the Griffin by discard and discard one, bring out the Griffin, and you normal summon the Jet then. So you can go into an Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon here, bring back the Jet, and now you can freely activate Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon's effect, because if they happen to chain Nibiru, you have the Griffin Rider to, you know, negate the Nibiru and play around this card that way. But then if they have an Veiler or an Imperm, at this point you're just basically ending on these two as well. Another way to play around or through Nib in this case is hard opening one of these two, because they also allow you to push past the Nibiru. So here again we get the token and the Fateful, and then we search the Griffin, summon him, normal summon the Jet, then we go for Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, reviving the Jet. We activate Excel, they chain Nibiru, we get a Rock token and a Stardust Dragon, because again, at this point Excel will resolve as much as possible. And from there we can If we happen to have Illumination, we can activate it and special summon out the trail and then discard another card for Jet. You know, we can go Speeder here. Or if we hard opened the trail, she is obviously going to trigger now because one of our monsters got tributed, and then we discard another for Jet, and you know, we basically have the same. So if you have one of these, in addition to your standard combo line, you will be fine if your opponent has a Nibiru. So, you know, and you have 3 of this, you have those 2. This could also be like a Diabellstar. You know, sometimes you use Diabellstar first and they're gonna imperm it because they don't want you to have like access to the level 1 body that way. And if you started with the wanted poster even, you know, they also prevent you getting from the random draw. So yeah, keep that in mind. Then it's, you know, basically the same as, you know, if you had Fenrir. So as you can see, there are a lot of card variations that happen to help you tremendously when going up against Nibiru. Alright, on to the last point I've seen people dropping Nibiru on me is the point when a Junk Speeder resolved. So we obviously gonna trigger Stardust Synchron to add Illumination, and our opponent decides, oh man, this guy has a lot of tuners, I'm gonna go for Nib now. And give us the Nib token. So again, these 2 stay on the field because Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon makes them unaffected. And there it's just like, you know, it doesn't do anything. You have Jet Revive, you have Revolution Synchron Revive, you can bring back Stardust Dragon, you have Illumination access now, which lets you special summon the Stardust Trail. So you can go for like Special Trail, mill something for Revolution Synchron, go Librarian, then you go activate Jet Engrave, bring out, you can make Crimson Dragon, draw a card. You have a lot of possibilities there after Nib dropped. So yeah, that's also, they also just wasted a card in their hand then. If they wait with using Nibiru after Speeder resolved. So yeah, we're not losing to Nibiru in that case as well. Like I said, the most impactful point to Nibiru is to drop him in response to Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon's effect to tag out. So yeah, that's it for Nibiru. As we could see, pretty impactful if timed correctly, but if used suboptimally, it basically doesn't accomplish anything. A quick note I want to make here is if you get nipped while doing the Junk Servant line, then it's actually turn ending because you cannot use Jet effects to revive. So you would need another access to Jet like a Synchro Overtake then, for example, to work around the fact that you cannot use his own effect to bring him back. So yeah, that sums it up for Nib. Let's go ahead and talk about D-Shifter. Everyone's favorite hand trap, of course. Not. So if we talk about Shifter, we need to talk about what we need to play under Shifter. Because, you know, the wanted engine doesn't really work under Shifter. You know, you obviously cannot activate original Sinful Spoils because it specifies that you have to send a card for cost to the graveyard. But, you know, big old Shifter says no there. So your card would get banished, and therefore you cannot pay the cost to activate original Sinful Spoils. You need write access, and you need like a way to Jet in hand. So either the man himself or like an Overtake, because then you can do something. And yeah, we're gonna look at that now. So yeah, let's say, yeah, let's go Rite Jet and a blank that we need for the discard or for Fateful. So, you know, we start a turn, draw phase, opponent goes, yeah, shifter, have fun, let's see what you can do. And we say, all right, let's check out what we can do. We go for right here, getting the Fateful and the token, of course. Then we want to go activate Fateful, add the Griffin Rider and discard the blank. And then we want to summon the Griffin Rider and normal summon the Jet. And I haven't searched the equip spell to this point because we have to play risky now, that's the issue. So we're not going into Excel, obviously, like we couldn't revive Jet. You could go for him if you have access to Overtake, because that basically functions as the revive effect of Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, because you can bring out another Jet from the deck. But let's say we don't have that. So we're gonna go into Speeder here, and then go Chainlink 1 Speeder, Chainlink 2 Fateful to play around an Ash Blossom. Add the Draco back, and then we get the guys, where Stardust then activates and gets us the illumination. And so from this point on, you're mostly free to do whatever you like. So you could go get some draws in, and then go Stardust, because going for Extra Synchro Stardust wouldn't do anything. And then you can, you know, bring out the trail, go for a Baron, and then you could go Crimson Dragon, activate his effect, bring out a Dispatter, and then you can go Dispatter effect, reviving the Stardust, and then go for an Omega here. So of course, you know, the board is weaker, but we are still doing something. So what you can also do from this point on is go for a Librarian line to draw some cards, if you like to do so, but you know, the board will be weaker. If you want to risk fishing for like a Synchro Overtake, for example, to extend even further, then you can do it. But you know, I'd like to go for the safer approach, but you know, let's still have a look what we can do. So we're gonna go into Stardust Dragon with those two. Then we wanna activate Illumination, bringing out the trail. Then we can go for TG here. Next, we summon Croc, drawing 2 cards, one of each. Then we synchro into Crimson Dragon, draw another card, and then we can go Crimson Dragon effect, ripping one with Thrish and drawing another card. And so if one of these cards happen to be Overtake, you can activate it, bring out another Jet, and then you can synchro summon a Baron, for example. So again, you know, that's matchup dependent. If you, for example, happen to play against Flu, I think that's a pretty nice approach, because you know, this can stop the field spell, or even against Kashtira, you know, you can use a pop actually then to out the birth, and you know, save the Baron for another play. Yeah, but going for Baron, Dispatter, Omega Rip 1 by default is probably better, I think. If you have a different view on that, just let me know in the comments. So yeah, that sums it up for today, I guess. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you learned something, because I sure did. You know, diving into all these combo lines and different scenarios regarding hand traps as well. And yeah, if you happen to have any ideas of different lines under certain hand traps, or any questions or something, feel free to drop them down in the comments, and yeah, see you in the next one.